All right, guys, welcome back to the Curio Cabinet. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button for your weekly dose of the weird, the witchy, and the absolute garbage people try to sell me at estate sales. I flashed my best thumbnail smile at the lens of my iPhone, waiting a beat for the imaginary editor to insert the intro music. The ring light reflected in my eyes, turning my irises into artificial halos. I was tired, the engagement numbers were down, and the haunted Dybbuk box I'd unboxed last week turned out to be a glorified wine crate from Pier 1. But the algorithm demands to be fed. Today, I said, dropping the energetic persona just an inch to sound serious, we have something from the Deep South, New Orleans, the Big Easy. I reached for the package on my desk. It was wrapped in brown butcher paper, tied with twine that felt greasy to the touch. I'd picked it up from a estate sale of a woman who supposedly practiced dark arts, which usually just meant she owned a lot of cats and burned sage to hide the smell of ammonia. I sliced the twine with my pocket knife. Smell-o-vision isn't a thing yet, folks, but trust me, this smells like a wet basement and cinnamon. I pulled the object out. It was a doll, but not the porcelain, glassy-eyed type that usually got the views. This was crude. It was stitched together from rough, potato sack burlap. The eyes were black buttons, mismatched in size, giving it a permanent, deranged wink. Its mouth was a singular, horizontal stitch of thick black thread. Attached to its wrist by a loop of red string was a yellow piece of cardstock. Let's see what the warning is, I mocked, bringing the tag close to the camera lens so the autofocus could catch it. Usually it's, "Do not touch," or "Cursed be he who opens this." Let's see. Ah, here we go. I read the faded cursive aloud. Once named, never discarded. I laughed, a dry, cynical bark. That's it? No eternal damnation? No pestilence? Just a clingy attachment style? Okay, buddy. I held the doll up, rotating it. It felt heavier than it looked, dense, like it was stuffed with wet sawdust. Well, if we're going to keep him, he needs a name, I said to the camera. He looks a bit like me, doesn't he? Dead eyes, rough around the edges, empty inside. I chuckled at my own self-deprecation. The comments section loved that stuff. Let's call him Mark Jr. I jiggled the doll. Say hello to the fans, Mark Jr. As I shook it, something sharp inside the doll's torso shifted. I felt a sudden, hot sting in the pad of my thumb. Ah, damn it! I dropped the doll. It hit the desk with a wet thud that didn't sound like fabric hitting wood. It sounded like meat hitting a butcher's block. I squeezed my thumb. A bead of dark crimson blood welled up, perfect and round. Before I could grab a tissue, the blood dripped. It landed squarely on the doll's burlap chest. I watched, zoomed in by my own curiosity, as the droplet didn't smear or run. It vanished. The fabric drank it instantly, like water hitting parched desert earth. For a second, just a split second, the burlap seemed to pulse, expanding and contracting as if taking a breath. Then, nothing. Okay, I muttered, wrapping a tissue around my thumb. Cut. That's a wrap. I stopped the recording. The adrenaline faded, replaced immediately by the annoyance of a throbbing thumb and a messy desk. I looked at the doll Mark Jr. lying face down among the cables. Stupid piece of junk, I grumbled. I didn't believe in the warnings. I never did. I was a tourist in the world of the supernatural, selling tickets to a show I knew was rigged. I grabbed the doll by its leg. I walked into the kitchen, popped the lid of the stainless steel trash can, and tossed Mark Jr. inside. He landed on a pile of wet coffee grounds and a discarded takeout container. Discarded, I whispered, mocking the tag. Sue me. I went to the bathroom, bandaged my thumb, and popped 2 ibuprofen. The house was quiet, save for the hum of the refrigerator. I went to bed, the events of the evening already compartmentalized into content and chores. I fell asleep quickly, but the dreams were heavy. I woke up to a sound that vibrated in my teeth. Grind, whir, hiss, the garbage truck. I blinked, staring at the ceiling. The room was dark, the early morning sun barely bleeding through the blackout curtains. It was Tuesday, trash day. I tried to roll over to check the time, but I couldn't move. It wasn't sleep paralysis. I'd had that before. This was different. I wasn't just frozen. I felt bound. My arms were pressed tight against my ribs. My legs fused together. The air in the room felt thick, hot, and smelled overpowering like coffee grounds and rotting food. I gagged, but my mouth wouldn't open. It felt like my lips were sewn shut, a singular, tight stitch running horizontally across my face. Panic, cold, liquid panic flooded my chest. I tried to scream, but the sound died in my throat, muffled by a wall of heavy, rough texture. The sound outside grew louder, the heavy rumble of a diesel engine idling, the squeal of air brakes directly below my second-story window. Then the sensation hit. It started as a pressure on my left side, not a touch, but a smothering. Something wet and slimy pressed against my cheek. I couldn't see it. My vision was blurred, obscured by a translucent, crinkling darkness. Plastic. I was seeing through plastic. No. I felt the lurch. A sudden, defying gravity sensation of being lifted into the air. My stomach dropped, but my body remained rigid, stiff as a board. Outside, the hydraulic arms of the truck whined. Simultaneously, I was tipped backward. The world spun. I felt myself falling, tumbling through the void, until I slammed into something hard and cold. Metal. I wasn't in my bed. I was. My eyes, frantic and wide, saw my ceiling fan. I saw the glow of the smoke detector. But my body was somewhere else. I was in the dark. I was surrounded by the stench of decay. I was lying on cold steel, once named. The memory of my own voice echoed in my head, mocking me, never discarded. I had named it. I had fed it my blood. I had made it me. The whine of the hydraulics shifted in pitch. The compactor. I felt the walls closing in. Not the walls of my bedroom, those remained still. I felt the steel walls of the truck's hopper. The pressure began at my feet, an immense mechanical force pushing inward. In my bed, my legs straightened involuntarily. My muscles seized, hard as rock. Crunch. The sound was wet and loud in the silent bedroom. My ankles shattered. The pain was blinding, white hot, but I couldn't scream. My sewn-shut mouth only allowed a high, pathetic whimper. The compactor blade pushed further. My shins bowed. I could feel the femur grinding into the hip socket. The pressure was inexorable. It was the weight of the world, closing a fist around me. Snap, snap. My tibias gave way. In the bedroom, my legs folded at impossible angles, bending like wet cardboard. The blade kept coming. It was curling the trash, compressing it into a tight, manageable cube. My spine was next. I stared at the ceiling fan, spinning lazily, mocking my stillness. I could hear the engine revving outside, giving the hydraulics more power to crush the stubborn debris. I am the debris. The pressure hit my ribcage. It felt like a giant hand squeezing a soda can. Pop, a rib, then another. The air was forced out of my lungs, not through my mouth, but through the tear in my chest, where the bone punctured the lung. My vision began to tunnel. The darkness of the trash bag and the darkness of death were merging. The truck let out a final, hissing sigh as the cycle completed. The compactor reached its limit. In my bedroom, I lay twisted, a broken, crumpled thing. My head was forced down toward my chest, my spine snapped, my limbs woven together in a grotesque, impossible knot. As the last of my consciousness flickered out, faded